Back in 2020, I reviewed the GGMM D3 Portable Battery Base for the Amazon Echo Dot Gen 3, and it worked really great for about a year and a half, until recently when it started to make a high-pitched buzzing sound and would no longer accept a charge. So today, I'm going to show you how to remove and replace the battery to make the battery base work like new again. First, we'll flip the unit upside down and remove the 4 rubber feet. I'm using a thin metal spudger here, but you can also use a small flathead screwdriver. The feet are stuck on with sticky tape and cover a few screws that we'll need to remove to open it up. Now, take a small Phillips screwdriver and remove the 4 screws in the holes we just uncovered. Gently tap the bottom of the unit and the top cover should pop off. Inside, you'll find the lithium-ion polymer battery pack and control boards. The battery is connected to the lower board just behind the status LEDs, so we'll need to remove this next to disconnect the battery. Remove the 2 Phillips screws on this board as well. Then with your fingers or tweezers, remove the black cover over the LEDs. This clear plastic piece is the LED diffuser. To remove it, gently pull each of the 4 diffusers away from the case. Be careful here because the tiny LEDs underneath are quite fragile and could shatter if you press down on them too hard. This last one was a bit tricky for me, and I actually ended up busting that LED in the process, which you'll see later. Once the diffuser is out, you can remove the PCB board. On the bottom, on the left side, is the connector for the battery, and all you need to do is grasp it firmly on the sides with needle nose pliers and pull straight up to remove it. We're going to need to replace the LiPo battery pack, which has the following specs: an 18650 form factor, 7.2 volts, and 2600 mAh capacity. I wasn't able to find an exact match though, and ended up purchasing a 7.4 volt battery with the same capacity and overall dimensions. You could probably go with a higher capacity too, if the battery pack has the same dimensions and voltage. The other thing I wasn't able to match exactly was the connector style, so I'm going to have to remove the connector on the new battery and transplant in the old connector from the old battery by soldering it on. So on the old battery, I'm going to cut the wires off fairly close to the battery pack. This gives me lots of wire and room to work with. Then on the new battery, I'm going to cut off the mismatched connector and leave about 2 inches of wire connected to the battery. I don't want to leave too much wire because it might get too crowded inside the case. Next, I'm going to use my wire strippers to remove the casing on all 4 wire leads. On the battery side, I'll slip about an inch of shrink tubing onto each wire so I can seal the connection when I'm done soldering. Now, I'm going to match the connector's red and black wires to the battery's red and black wires. I like to mesh the strands together and twist so that they end up intertwined like so. This would be a lot easier if you stripped the wires back a little more than I did here. Just give yourself enough length to work with. Now go ahead and feed some solder onto your wires using your soldering iron. Next, slide the shrink wrap tubing that we put in place earlier over the connection and hit it with a heat gun until that connection is all sealed up. Then we'll do the same with the black wires. Solder their ends together, and seal that connection up with heat shrink. Now all we have to do is plug the connector back into the board, and you can see already the blue LEDs have lit up, since it automatically powered on when the battery was connected. So the leftmost LED is broken. That's why there's no light here. I must have cracked the glass when I was taking the diffuser out, so just be careful when you do it, but I'm not going to worry about replacing it because the device should work fine without it. To be safe, let's power it off by holding the power button. Now I'm going to reseat the new battery and the PCB. The wire is a little longer than with the old battery, which is fine because there's plenty of room here to tuck it in on the side. When reinstalling the clear plastic diffuser, make sure the handles on the back are facing up. Then, carefully work each of the plugs into the matching holes in the case. Then put the black cover over the diffuser and replace the 2 screws on the board. When replacing the top cover, make sure the notched area is facing the back of the unit where the plugs are, and it should drop right in. Then, flip the unit over and replace the 4 screws on the bottom, and finally, carefully put the rubber feet back on. Now when we plug the unit in, we can see the LEDs blinking as the new battery is now accepting a charge, and there's none of that high-pitched buzzing. Again, my leftmost LED is busted, but it does accurately display the other 2 LEDs and a flashing 4th, indicating that the charge level is at least 75%. The final test is to unplug the base and connect an echo dot to it. And we can see that it powers up just fine. So let's wait for it to connect to my Wi-Fi network and test it out. Alexa, what's the weather?
The current weather is 48 degrees Fahrenheit with clear skies. Tonight, you can look for rainy weather with a low of 36 degrees. Have a good night.
And there you have it. It works great. Good as new with this new battery. I hope you enjoyed this repair video. You can ask me any questions in the comments. I'll put a link to the parts I used in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and join me next time.